Good morning, Inspiring Illuminators. It is me, Jennifer Engel, CEO and founder of Inspire Illuminate, which is just me. The book is actually done, Highest Possibility States, and now we're in the process of throwing a launch party in about a month. So that's good. But until then, I'm just out doing my jaunts with Jen and also doing some other social media, and I really only talk or share things when I have something to say or when something comes to mind. And the way that I come up with my quotes, in the past it was like, oh, what do I feel inspired by? But recently I shifted how I come up with my quotes. I think to myself, what has happened in the last 24 hours that I could come up with a quote about? So that's how I come up with my quotes. They might be things I'm going through, but more often than not, they are experiences that I'm having with a person or people in my life. And then generally, then I reflect back onto all the experiences I've had that are related to the quote or quotes. Not just in the past 24 hours, but in the past week, in the past month, in my lifetime. I don't know why, but I have several gifts. One gift I have is when I meet someone for the first time, I literally see their highest possibility state. And this has gotten me in trouble because they might have been in a really low state. And I didn't see it because I just see people's highest possibility states. And that makes me a great teacher. To see the highest potential in my students and to bring that out. But the other gift that I have is I can walk in a room, and I don't know what it is, but I'm a walking confessional. It's very interesting. People tell me their deepest, darkest secrets. They tell me their fears. They tell me what's been going on in their life that has caused them fear, shame, guilt, insecurity. And I think a big part of that is it's just my energy. I don't know. It's just a gift that I have. And when I was younger, it was a really hard gift to have because I didn't understand and I didn't know what to do with it. I wasn't trained, I wasn't equipped to handle it. But now that I'm older, I can kind of handle it. And I have had lots of training, thank goodness, being like a teacher and things. And, one of the things that I still see going on in this world that really bothers me is judgment. People just see the outside of a person. They don't have the gift that I do. So, in that aspect, you can't really blame someone. But they just see the outside of a person. They just see the struggle. They just see the dishevelment. Or they might see the outside of someone who looks like they're all put together and assume that they're all put together. But then behind closed doors, they're just falling apart. And, growing up with having an ostomy and spina bifida and medical problems, I used to be in the dark too. I used to kind of keep everything in the closet because I thought everyone had their life together. And the older that I become, and the more people confess to me, the more I realize very few people have their shit together, okay? Most people And when I say this, I don't mean it in a negative way. They're posers, you know? They post all this positivity on social media. They act like they have it all together, but then behind closed doors, they're just falling apart. Now, don't get me wrong. I think we need to post the positivity and the happy, smiley pictures on our social media because that's what we're striving for, right? That's what we really want. And it is okay to kind of be in the closet about the things that are tearing us apart. That's fine. Because, as most people realize, and what I'm seeing, is people judge us. And that's why we keep these darker things, these sadder things, these guilty things, these fearful things in the closet. Because we know when we let them out, more often than not, people crucify us for them. And they don't really try to understand the story behind the falling apart. Now, I do think, at least in my world, and I know Jenny world is, I'm learning, very different a lot of times than most people's worlds. I do think this is getting better. I do think people are able to start to release a little bit more truth into the world. I believe and see that people are being a little bit more supportive and encouraging of differences. You know, when I was a teacher 20-some years ago, let's take the LGBT community, for example, they definitely had to hide. And then about 5 years ago or so, we could actually start having conversations. Like a young girl wrote a paper about what it was like during our guided group time. And the kids at the table really kind of supported her. And I thought that was beautiful. And I have told the younger generation that I work with now that they are the most supporting, compassionate generation I've ever worked with. Yet at the same time, they're also the most separated and lonely at times. So I do think that there is getting some hope in the world. And as cheesy as it sounds, a song that started to come back to my mind, which I've been listening to a lot lately, and even thinking about the woman behind the song and her struggles, by Whitney Houston, is The Greatest Love of All. You know, I believe the children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Because they are the hope. They are compassion for the most part. On the other hand, I have talked with another student who said, and I've experienced it with one of my own sons as well, there are still sections of the future that are not as hopeful, that are judgmental or lazy or whatever, distracted. So yes, there are those too, even in the younger generation. But it just really breaks my heart, because one of the things that I've seen in the past, I don't know how many years now, I guess I don't need to say a certain number, is there will be people who are struggling and people just kind of crucify them. They just judge them on what's going on the outside, rather than lending a hand and really trying to hear their story and help them out. It's really been bothering me lately, and I honestly believe, and I'll say this again and again, that clear, consistent communication and compassion leads to connection. And when we are connected, we don't feel lonely anymore. Our light shines, and then we become stronger as a community. Even trees know this. I read a book about trees a couple summers ago that my mom sent to my son, but I ended up reading it. And it's really interesting. They form like their little forest or whatever, their connections, their groups. And I'm talking about natural trees, not ones just planted in neighborhoods. And together, they create the perfect balance in the environment. And if one of the trees is dying or sick, all the other trees send literally vibrations through their roots, they take care of it. Because they know if that tree does die, the balance of the whole, like the humidity levels and everything that they need to survive, gets thrown off. Or not just survive, but flourish. There's a difference between survival and flourishing, which is kind of what I talked about in my video, The Parable of Teasel, a little bit. So, if you see someone who is struggling, and what I put in my quote today is, you don't have to be their savior. You don't have to help them with everything in their life. A lot of times, all they really need is a compassionate ear. And you know, every single time I've talked to one of those people who are struggling, they want to get better. They want to fix it. But I've also heard them say, I want to fix it, I want to do these things, but people refuse to come give me feedback if I'm actually fixing things. You know? They refuse to follow through on the help or the advice or the coaching. And then great disaster happens. And it's really frustrating to me that people are still doing this in this day and time. Now, there are some people out there who, you know, you can give tips, you can give advice to, and they may not take it, and that's fine too. I really started to come to understanding in 2015 really what it meant to walk on water. It's not a literal thing. And I learned this because I pray every morning, and one thing I pray with is a wine glass just filled with water. To me, that kind of represents the world. It represents the womb. Water to me represents memory. It represents emotion. And another thing that I do on my camera, on my phone, is I take pictures of everything. Like, I really look at my pictures. And if there's something that moves me, or that I like, or that I love, like this morning, beautiful sunrise, take a picture. I take like that little screenshot of like the last 12 to 20 pictures or however many show up on my screen, and I put it on top of that wine glass, because in my mind what I'm doing is I'm telling that water, I'm telling that emotion, this is what I want more of, and then I pray over it, and then I drink it. And whether that actually works or not, you know, it's the belief in it. It really ingrains it into my memory and into my heart what I want more of. So to me, water is memory and emotion. And what God told me or showed me is that so many people drowned in their memories and in their negative emotions rather than walk on them. Say, okay, this happened to me. Instead of trying to find the miracle in the mud, they just keep themselves in the mud. And then when they do try to reach out for help, instead of people lending a hand to help kind of pull them up a little bit, people throw more mud on them. So then they learn, I can't reach out for help. I have to keep everything to myself. And I think that's a shame. So what I'm asking people to do, again, you don't need to save everyone. You don't need to help them with every single one of their problems. Just lend an ear. Most of the time, that's what somebody needs. Lend them your advice or your expertise. Because another thing I found is the universe brings people together to be a part of the bigger puzzle. You're just a piece of helping that person with their problem. You're not the whole puzzle. And I think sometimes if we know that, we can kind of take a sigh of relief, because I do think that might be something that holds people back. Oh, I don't want to get too involved because I don't want to help them with everything or get pulled in. No, you're just a piece of a much larger puzzle. And if they're coming into your life, and if they're confessing or telling you things, all you need to do is lend an ear and lend your little puzzle piece to the solution. It might be listening. So like, for example, someone's telling you all their woes, okay? It just might be you might give them some information. It might be, I don't know what to do, but I have a contact. Here's someone you could call. It could be, if you need some time, I can take you to the other people who can help you. If you have children, I can maybe watch them for a little bit so you can go do the things that you need to do to help you. It could be, I don't know what to do, but I'm a really good cook. So I'm going to cook you and or your family a meal. So that's at least one thing that you don't have to worry about. It could be, I'm not a good cook, I'm not whatever, but I'm really good at remembering to send letters or cards, words of encouragement. It could be, I'm not a cook or a card person or anything, but I'm an auto mechanic, and if you need, I'll do a free oil change for you. It could be, I'm not any of those things, but I've got technology skills. So maybe I'll sit down with you at the computer and show you where you can find some resources. Okay? And when we have these interactions with people, to me, it's what comes to us is what we should help with. You don't necessarily need to go chase down all the people that need help. That would be way too overwhelming. But the people who come to you and ask for help, and you can set up boundaries. You can say, I can't help with this, this, or this, but here's what I can help with if you want that. Okay? And, there might be some people who are like leeches, and so that's another thing that causes people to disconnect. So you could say, here's my boundaries, and I do find that probably like 90, 95%, maybe 98%, stay within your boundaries. And there might be a 1 or 2% who abuse the boundaries, right? And so if you do find yourself in a situation where you're helping people and they're abusing the boundaries, or you're one of those people who don't even know how to set boundaries for yourself, so you end up helping people so much that it drains your own energy, then we ask ourselves our questions, okay? When people come up to you and they need help, when you are considering if you want to help someone or not, you can ask yourself, Does this kind of fit in with my values? You should still stay focused on your values, don't get me wrong. For me, it's, my spirituality, it's teaching, it's family, and friends, and my health. Okay, those are my top 5. If it fits within there and within my time frame, and I found more often than not it does, I have found more often than not that quote is true. I do know there's some situations where people don't like this quote, and I respect and honor that. The universe will not give you more than you can handle. You might take on more than you can handle, but the universe, I have found in general, does not give you more than you can handle. So when someone comes to you, you're thinking about, does this fit within my values? Do I have time for this? And as you start, if you say yes and you start interacting and providing that help and support, then you're going to use those questions to kind of evaluate how it's going. How is this helping, making me feel? Is it making me feel good? Is it, giving me energy? Or at the very minimum, not taking my energy away? Then maybe you can keep helping. If it is drowning you and making you tired, then yes, I am giving you permission to step back and say, I can't right now, because you do need to take care of yourself first, okay? And if that's you, I'm giving you permission to just take care of yourself. I'm talking to the people who really have cared for themselves and are in a good place. And they're ready to share the wealth of their energy, of their expertise, of their talent. It is literally overflowing. If it is overflowing, then it's time to share. If it's not, and it's leaking out of the cup, please take care of yourself, okay? So that's number 1. And then as you're evaluating, how is this situation making me feel? Is it making that person more functional and me still being able to be functional? Then continue to help that person, okay? If it's taking away your functionality and it's not making you feel good, then you move into the next set of questions. Does this need a tune-up? Maybe this person and or I just needs to tweak just a little something. Try that. If you've tried that and it's not working, it's okay to pass the ball, pass the baton. Okay, what I'm doing is not going to help this person, but I do know other people or agencies who might be able to. And so it's okay to say, I can't help with this, this, or this, so I'm going to pass you on to other places and people and organizations that have more resources. So that's like an overhaul, right? And then, if that person still isn't listening, still isn't taking your advice, is kind of draining your energy, then you can do a timeout or a trade-in. Okay? So that's kind of where these quotes came from this morning. I've had lots of people come to me over the years saying, I'm really trying my best. I'm going through all this shit at home in my personal life. I don't want it to affect my professional life or my personal life. I'm ready, I'm open for feedback. And I have found when I have provided feedback, they do. They really, really want to try, and they use it. Sometimes when I try to provide people feedback who also work with the other person, sometimes they take that feedback and sometimes they don't. But I just really think that this world could use still so much more compassion. We have made a lot of progress but we still have a lot more to go. And I think it can really happen with consistent communication and compassion, and with evaluation. I'm not asking anyone to do anything that would hurt them. But I'm asking people to, number one, yes, take care of yourself. But if you are overflowing, if you do have resources, whether that's financial, whether that's physical through volunteering, whether that's compassion, whether that's a specific skill or trade, I am asking for you to give a little bit. And I'm not asking you to give a little bit to everybody. I'm asking you to give a little bit to the people who show up in your life rather than just chasing people down who need it. Okay? And in the end, trust your heart and your gut. Because I have found, more often than not, they won't lead you wrong. I didn't mean to stand up on a soapbox today, but it is something that's been kind of on my mind. It's been something that's been kind of bugging me as I see people who are really hurt. They're being kind of crucified by other people. They're being ignored by people. And granted, I might only have one side of the story. I'll admit that too. But I honestly think if we can clearly communicate and connect with each other and show each other compassion and remember we're a team, I honestly think that will help everyone, like the trees in the forest. It will help maintain that perfect balance of an environment. I hope that this has helped someone today, or inspired or motivated someone today, so that you can use your own gifts and talents. And again, I am all about helping yourself first, because I've been there. So if that's what you need to do, use your gifts and talents to help yourself first. But when you get into a position of overflowing, consider opening up, looking for experiences and opportunities of people around you. And it just starts with an ear. That's all I'm asking you to do. Just open your eyes and listen. And I have found more often than not, your inner voice will tell you to what capacity you are to help. Your inner voice will tell you, I'm just here to listen. Your inner voice will tell you, I'm here to listen, but I also know other resources this person could use. And maybe you're just supposed to give them a phone number. I'm here to listen, but I feel I could use some of my own skills to also help out. And then you propose to that person, here are the skills I have, here are the boundaries that I am setting if you wish to take or use them. And I'm going to end with a quote by John Hyatt, and I will post this sound to my Facebook feed, and I'll probably post the link down in the YouTube link below. When just a simple reaching out, right, could build a bridge that lasts. Don't ask what you are not doing. Your voice cannot command. In time, we will move mountains, and it will come through our hands. And I hope that everyone has a peaceful, blissful, thankful Thursday. Peace and blessings.